I leave to you the future. What?
You asked and we answered. Girlfriend is doing the postgame. Your prayers have been heard. There are so many unanswered questions by the end of the main story, it was kind of ludicrous for her to not even be a little curious about it.
What about Grovyle? Is he okay?
Things like why was Temporal Tower collapsing, or how my girlfriend even became a Pokemon in the first place, aren't actually answered unless you dive into the post-credits story.
So why the hell is this game called Sky? I did nothing in the sky.
So I don't know where we found the time, but we did. And my girlfriend and I spent a weekend revisiting Skitty and Shinx to see what life was like after they saved the world together.
Monster House!
Mystery Dungeon Explorers has a surprisingly robust epilogue. Things are rather open-ended, and you have a lot of freedom in how you tackle stuff. But this is all kicked off with our exploration team's graduation exam.
Graduation? Yo! That's right, graduation from the guild!
After saving the world, the guild has decided the two of us are ready to become a full-fledged team and give us instructions on how to take the exam.
You will then be recognized as a fully trained exploration team. Yo, and they won't take 90% of our money?
The exam takes place in the Mystifying Forest, where allegedly the master of all things bad is waiting to test us.
Yup. Man, I needed that lightheartedness after the whole ending situation.
Contrary to her expectations of battling a scary legendary Pokemon, turns out Wigglytuff and the guild serve as the boss battle for our graduation exam.
Uh-oh, you're not walking out of here. Prepare to. I love the guild so much.
They're masquerading as the master of all things bad and not admitting who they are, even though my girlfriend's kind of figured it all out.
Who's Wigglytuff? His name is Grandmaster. What? I am the Grandmaster. I know nothing of your so-called Wigglytuff.
This is actually an exceptionally difficult fight because Wigglytuff knows Double Slap, but my girlfriend's a Skitty who saved the world, so it's light work.
Wigglytuff is lost and confused, and I'm okay with it.
Oh my god. With all of them defeated, our team can push forwards and find the treasure the master of all things bad was guarding.
I opened it! It's a perfect apple!
Before they head back though, at the depths of Mystifying Forest is a place called the Luminous Spring, where Pokemon can evolve.
Oh my god!
Apparently it was inactive while time was acting funky, but thanks to our team's heroics at Temporal Tower, evolution has become possible again.
No, I'm okay, Noiki. No, 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 no.
He's excited.
He's so excited. But Noiki, stay as Noiki.
My girlfriend started panicking because she's grown attached to Noiki the Shinx and didn't want to see him grow up just yet. But thankfully, for some strange reason, he's unable to evolve.
Oh.
The same goes for Skitty, and our inability to evolve becomes the big riddle at the heart of the postgame. It's a distortion of the fabric of space.
Oh my god, Palkia!
With the graduation mission a success, the team is finally ready to go out into the world and start their exploration careers properly. But before that, they need to set up an exploration base. Fittingly, we choose the Sharpedo Bluff as a base location since it served as a home away from home during the fugitive arc of the main story.
Hell yeah!
Now that things are official, my girlfriend was excited to finally not have to pay dues to the guild.
Does that mean that from now on, we get to keep all the reward money from the board jobs and we don't need to share with the guild? That's excellent, Tarny! Yeah! What? What? What the hell?
I guess the guild has to fund those perfect apples somehow.
Oh my god, that means nothing's changed.
After our team's graduation, the postgame really opens up and she gets a lot more freedom about how she runs her team. She'll need to continue doing her regular missions between the major events, but she's allowed to tackle them at her own pace.
Oh. Oh my god, is it gonna tell us about Grovyle? Ah!
So among the many questions left unanswered in the main game, perhaps her biggest question of all was what happened to the frozen future. Explorers of Sky sets itself apart from its sister games by offering special episodes which are meant to fill in some of the blanks from the main story. They focus on other characters from her journey and even let her play as them. These are things like Wigglytuff's backstory and what the guild was up to during the time our heroes were stranded in the frozen future. The standout of the bunch though is the final one unlocked shortly after graduating in the postgame.
We're gonna see what happens! The future of darkness!
This episode focuses on Grovyle and Dusknoir and the events taking place after their fight in the Hidden Land when they return to the future.
Yo, that was such a badass moment. And the song!
Grovyle comes to and finds Dusknoir collapsed beside him. Both were heavily injured from their battle in the past, but determined to continue his mission, Grovyle decides to take off and go after Primal Dialga.
I believe in you too. Oh my god, Grovyle! I'm doing everything I can.
His goal is to slow the tyrant down and buy some time for his friends in the past. He leaves Dusknoir behind and starts fighting his way to the Temporal Tower.
Grovyle as the main character, yo.
He doesn't get far though and ends up getting ambushed by Dusknoir and some Sableye shortly thereafter. Surprisingly though, they attack Dusknoir too, and the unlikely duo needs to team up to fend them off. After the battle, they learn that Dialga has replaced Dusknoir due to his many failings, and that his new henchman has ordered the Sableye to dispose of his predecessor.
Master Dusknoir's replacement? What?
Obviously, Dusknoir wants some answers for this, and the two reluctantly form an alliance of convenience until they can make it to the top.
What kind of Pokemon is this henchman anyway? I've got a bad feeling about this.
Back in the regular timeline, my girlfriend is stuck doing regular missions for now. Her favorites had to be the ones that rewarded golden ribbons because they sell for 2,000 each and the guild doesn't take a cut of non-cash rewards.
Ooh, gold ribbon. Money.
The ribbons are essentially little tax shelters for Teen Boy Met Girl, and her strategy of using them to launder money was funny.
Like, Salamence, you're so powerful, you could have done this yourself. This is Waterfall Cave.
What an unlikely duo. So after a couple days of Poké tax evasion, my girlfriend notices a commotion coming from the cafe.
Someone's at the cafe entrance. What? Mr. Mime?
Apparently they've discovered a mountain in the south called Sky Peak.
Has anyone heard of a mountain called Sky Peak? Finally, now I'm getting some answers. I have not heard of Sky Peak, but I've heard of Explorers of Sky.
And it's been discovered that a group of shaman live at the base of the mountain and have formed a village together. Not much is known about shaman, but that's why the exploration teams are being asked to go and visit them to learn more.
Oh, little shaman.
Sky Peak is of course where the sky in Explorers of Sky comes from. Appropriately, this section of the postgame is a dungeon and story completely unique to this version of the game. The gist is that shaman have historically acted as tour guides escorting groups up to the summit of the mountain. Keeping with tradition, my girlfriend volunteers to climb to the top with one of the shaman as her guide.
I want to climb the Sky Peak, shaman. We're an adventure team.
The Sky Peak is broken into 10 sections, which are separated by checkpoints in between the climbs. Another team making the trek named Team Frontier has a small lead on her group and is kind enough to set up base camps on every other checkpoint along the way. You can use the gondola to get out of here.
Oh, that's so cool. And then can I, like, gondola back?
Mm-hmm. At about the halfway mark, the climbers run into some trouble. A Weavile is being harassed by some local Carnivines who call the mountain their home.
Oh, man.
My girlfriend's team, as well as Team Frontier, are quick to attack, but it's only after the dust settles that we learn that it was in retaliation to Weavile stealing from them. The two groups make peace with each other, and everyone continues up the mountain.
We all thought you were the bad guys.
They're not exactly the good guys either.
Hey!
We end up catching up to Weavile, who got injured further ahead. But thankfully, an Ampharos that lives near the top is able to help.
Yo, Ampharos was coming down to help. Yo! Did you see how Ampharos was
bobs
running?
its head.
So cute!
With the crisis averted, the two teams make their final push to the summit. But upon arriving, the group discovers that a bunch of Grimer and Muck have polluted the Gracidia fields. This, of course, feeds my girlfriend's theory that all evil Pokemon in Mystery Dungeon games are purple, but I digress.
Are these... Grimer! I'm like, are these more poison types?
The poison type profiling.
Yes, it continues.
The postgame is filled with these boss battles where you're completely surrounded, a la the pack of angry Electrics from the main story. Since she found a Blizzard TM for Skitty, she's able to hit the entire room with a single attack, making these battles a lot less tough than in the main story. This is good because I remember struggling with some of these as a youngster. With the Grimers taken down, our Shaman Guide is able to clean the Sky Summit and return the field to its former glory.
Whoa! Can all shamans do this? Whoa! It's so beautiful! can see the sky.
Both teams bask in the beauty of the view from the top, and the sight gave my girlfriend pause at why everyone wanted her to see the postgame in the first place.
Congratulations on reaching the summit. This is the Sky Peak Summit. Yay!
With that long expedition under her belt, she can finally call herself an explorer of the sky.
Everyone look over there.
Whoa!
It's so gorgeous.
At the foot of the temporal tower, Grovyle contemplates the implications of working with his former enemy. On the one hand, it's nice having someone he can rely on in the dungeons, but he's wary of Dusknoir eventually switching back to Dialga's side. If that were to happen, Grovyle worries that the battle would be 3-on-1, him against Dialga, Dusknoir, and the new henchman.
Now when we meet Dialga at Temporal Tower, Dusknoir will probably side with Dialga. Then I'll have to take on Dialga and Dusknoir by myself. Well, not just them. There's also Dialga's new henchman.
Temporal Tower is no joke, though, and until he gets to the top, he decides he may as well work with Dusknoir. Dusknoir is wary of Grovyle as well, but agrees to not interfere with the battle with Primal Dialga until after Grovyle loses. Gee, thanks for the vote of confidence, Dusknoir.
Do what you want. He just told me he wasn't gonna fight with me.
Anyways, when they finally reach the temporal pinnacle, the two are baffled to find Dialga is nowhere in sight. That's when they come to the conclusion Dialga likely needed to recover in order to send another Pokemon into the past. If that's the case, it means that Celebi could potentially be in danger, so they both take off for Dusk Forest in the hopes that they'll find her.
Probably left here to catch Celebi. No, Celebi!
At the heart of the forest, Grovyle doesn't find Celebi, but instead another pack of Sableye. He and Dusknoir work together to take them down, and they begin interrogating them for answers. They're
running away. Wait! Oh, he grabbed him. He looks so scared.
Celebi's have been taken to an island in the south known as Frozen Island. Grovyle wants to give chase, but isn't quite sure how to get there. Dusknoir suggests they ask Porygon for help, and suddenly keeping the so-called Great Dusknoir around isn't feeling so bad after all.
Once we pass through here, we'll come to the place where Porygon lives. Celebi and Dialga have already gone off to Frozen Island. Let's hurry.
The two battle their way through the spatial cliffs and are transported to the south by the Porygons on Dusknoir's orders.
Don't move.
Back on Sky Summit, during their celebrations, one of Team Frontier raises the question of how they're all going to climb back down.
We didn't think about how we'd get back down. I hope there's like a gondola.
Shaman reassures them that they won't need to walk because the Gracidia flowers allow them to fly.
It's dancing, little Shaman's dancing. What? Whoa, what? Whoa. I just touch the flower like this and I can change form temporarily. Whoa. When I'm in this form, I can fly. It couldn't just fly us up to the top?
Even with Sky Peak completed, she's still far from done with her post-game adventures. After doing a couple more missions, she notices this Mr. Mime hanging around the signpost every day. He mentions a cold island to the south where a legendary explorer named Scizor went missing. Our team considers themselves crack explorers at this point, having saved the world and all, and they decide they're up to the task of rescuing Scizor.
Yeah, we'll go take a look. It's southwest on the map. Man, I'm filling out the map. Whoa!
This area consists of 2 dungeons, both a bit on the longer side of what she's faced, but despite their length, they aren't all that challenging. I think since the area is from Explorers of Time and Darkness, they didn't account for all the levels she'd gained climbing Sky Summit. The result is they didn't scale things up properly, which explains why most enemies hit like a squeaky toy. My favorite thing about Blizzard Island is that the music track it uses is a remix of a ton of my favorite themes from Red and Blue Rescue Team.
Oh, I love it here, and the music is amazing.
Sky Pillar, Mount Thunder, and even Thunderwave Cave gets some attention. This theme is Mount Thunder.
Yeah, I recognize it.
It's just like
a little remix.
Yeah, it's a little remix version. Isn't that cool?
That's so cool.
It's a nice love letter to the fans of the series, and we had fun clearing these dungeons mostly because of the music.
They really have just picked like all the best ones. Oh. Although I feel like I would be saying that for any of them that they put in here.
After getting the Heart of the Ice, the duo discovers Scizor. He's been trapped by an incredibly hard-to-hit Frostlass. After defeating her, they free Scizor and bring him back to Treasure Town.
Oh. You're rescuing me, I presume. Hell yeah, we are.
Scizor doesn't have much by way of award, considering he's been frozen for decades, but he claims that as an honorary member of the esteemed Exploration Team Federation, he can bestow the secret rank onto her rescue team badge. Shinx doesn't seem to get it, and most people in town claim we got scammed, but at the very least we saved a Pokemon in need. The treasure was the friends we made along the way. Speaking of, a few days later, my girlfriend caught rumors from some flora about a new ocean dungeon in the southern region of the map. The secluded sea was said to house tons of rare treasure that had never been seen before. After making it to the bottom, my girlfriend found the treasure.
Wait a second, there's 3 chests. I get all of them!
But also accidentally brought home an extra mouth to feed.
Wonder Egg? Wait a second.
In the final chamber of the dungeon, she found a Manaphy egg, and the little guy decided to hatch right in the middle of Sharpedo Bluff.
It's hatching! Oh my god!
Not sure how to raise a child, the team goes to ask Chatot for help, who informs them that they need to feed Manaphy blue gummies in order to help him grow.
To my storage!
Girl's a bit of an item hoarder, so thankfully she had a ton of those in storage. After feeding Manaphy, my girlfriend ended up growing attached to him and asked if she could keep him.
This guy's still a baby. And that's the day that Noiki and Tiny became parents.
Chatot warned that Manaphy belonged out in the sea, but since she opted to try and raise him herself, she and Shinx brought him on trips down to the beach.
See! Everyone just speaking Spanish. Noiki, Tiny! Oh my god, my heart!
All seemed well and good until one morning she woke up to find Manaphy missing.
No! He's not here! Shit! Quick, to the beach!
They found him down by the beach, passed out with a fever.
No! Oh my god, Manaphy just collapsed!
The only way to cure him was to go to the Miracle Sea and ask the Fion for dew to heal him. There's a Gyarados causing a scene when she arrives, but Shinx is an electric type, so the team dealt with him right quick. And as thanks, the Fion share their dew.
Obtained a Fion dew. You have to go take it to Manaphy.
After racing home to administer the medicine, the group is relieved to see that Manaphy makes a full recovery. Celebrations are bittersweet though, as although they are happy that he's all healed up, she's learned her lesson and knows he belongs in the sea.
See you later, little Manaphy. Oh, he's feeling so much better. This little guy's as good as ever.
The next morning, the group heads down to the water to say goodbye to Manaphy. And in the greatest plot twist in all of Boy Meets Girl lore, girlfriend realizes she's handing off her adoptive child to a Walrein.
Yay! Walrein? What is Walrein doing here?
I have some questions.
We're gonna trust Walrein to take Manaphy to the ocean.
We have to give up our adopted child to a Walrein.
This hurts.
Saying farewell was hard enough, but the fact it's her arch nemesis who's taking the baby away made things extra heartbreaking.
Noiki! God, Manaphy's just tearing out my heart. Tiny! Noiki! No! Manaphy didn't realize what was happening, and now he feels kidnapped by a Walrein. They really just dragged that little Manaphy out there.
Regardless of her complicated past with Walreins, I'm sure this one will take good care of Manaphy. Just don't teach him sheer cold.
Oh!
Almost as soon as Grovyle and Dusknoir land on Frozen Island, they're greeted by some locals. Grovyle asks the Snowruns for directions, only to almost immediately regret it after they attack him.
Oh, it's mad. What?
Dusknoir calls him naive, but also respects the hell out of him for remaining optimistic in this darkness.
Attitudes of the Pokemon living in this world of darkness are a bit warped.
As the two push onwards and scale the ice mountain, they fall into a trap. Grovyle's almost crushed by a falling block of ice, but Dusknoir pushes him out of the way to protect him. That's when a group of Glalie, led by a Mamoswine, roll up on them and attack.
Oh my god, Glalies.
They manage to fight off the ice types, but Dusknoir is still badly injured from the ice.
Bye! Looks like we've driven them away. Oh my god, he's not doing too hot.
Grovyle and him look for shelter as the two lay low and recover before their big confrontation with Dialga.
There's a crack in that ridge over there. Let's go.
In a nearby crack in the ice, they take a rest. And during the downtime, Dusknoir asks the real pressing question. Why is Grovyle so intent on erasing the future?
Why do you fight so hard for such a goal?
Dusknoir is terribly afraid of disappearing, and while Grovyle admits to not wanting to disappear himself, he makes the point that if the future of darkness were to continue, they all would eventually disappear anyways.
Everything ends eventually, even if history is not changed. Even if the world of darkness continues in its current state.
He believes that one's actions far outlive their own lifetime, preferring a short and meaningful life to a long and empty one. Ending the future of darkness would allow his spirit to live on brightly in those who come after. Despite being afraid of oblivion, Grovyle's words clearly have an impact on Dusknoir.
Even if I disappear, I still live on. My spirit is alive!
Sometime after her adventures with Manaphy, she runs into a master rank rescue team inside of Wigglytuff's guild.
Yo! What's going on? It's Baneri!
They go by the name Team Charm and are old acquaintances of Wigglytuff. Apparently, they've come to the guild to retrieve an old key they'd found several years ago. Aegis Cave in the southeast is said to guard wondrous treasure, and it would seem the key opens the entrance.
So what brings you all here? Everyone else's jaws are just on the floor, meanwhile Wigglytuff's just like, la 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 la.
Our team asks for permission to join them on their treasure hunt, and the lovely League of Ladies seems to open to the idea. So with that, everyone heads out for the cave.
Please! Hee, everyone is so earnest. You are all so adorable. Of course you may. Yay! Thank you!
Aegis Cave is unfortunately home to one of the more annoying puzzles in the game. Basically, teams have to work their way through 3 chambers, each of which corresponding with one of the 3 Reggies. In order to progress forwards, however, she'll need to spell ice, rock, and steel using letters dropped by the corresponding shaped unknown. The problem here being that the stones only drop some of the time, and due to hardware limitations, some floors will not even spawn the letters needed to spell the words.
The permission was granted! Yo! Oh my gosh, the wall opened up. This is so exciting.
This led to a lot of tedium because her exploration boiled down to grinding enemies on the floor rather than going deeper in the dungeon. On top of that, she didn't prepare for how long she'd be down here, so the team started starving from hunger due to not packing enough apples. The only saving grace was that by the time she made it down to the steel chamber, she'd figured out how things worked and had pre-prepared all but the letter S ahead of time. Who would have expected Walrein and Registeel to cause havoc in Mystery Dungeon 2, by the way? She thought she was safe here, but the terror knows no bounds.
1,000-yard steel. I'm gonna beat you because you are my boyfriend's adversary.
With the alphabet soup section done, the rest of the dungeon plays normally. Waiting at the bottom of the Aegis Cave is the leader of the Reggies, along with an entourage of bronzers ready for a showdown.
Oh my god, bronzer! Why did it just get dark in here? Those who seek the treasure sleeping in the ground, show all of your power! We have to fight against Bronzer! No!
Of all the post-game battles, I think this one may have been the funniest because how hard Blizzard goes. She cleared out half the cavalry of the first turn and let Team Charm clean up poor Regigigas before Slow Start even had time to wear off.
Yo! Yo! It's doing so good again.
It just took out every single hitbox at Leeton. His defeat unlocked the Concealed Ruin, the location where the real treasure is buried, and we say goodbye to Team Charm on good terms, having saved their life twice in one cave.
We get treasure! This exploration turned out to be a huge success after all. Yeah!
We're getting pretty late in the post-game story here, and my girlfriend still hasn't gotten to the bottom of why she and Noiki the Shinx can't evolve yet.
Something crazy happened last time there was a storm.
Intrigue in this mystery is reignited when she starts having visits in her dreams from a Pokemon named Cresselia. Cresselia tells her that her presence in the past as a Pokemon from the future is the cause of the space distortions preventing her from evolving. And if she continues to remain in this world, disaster is imminent.
Your very existence is pushing the world toward ruin. Uh-oh, what?
Cresselia continues to appear in her dreams, urging her to take action to prevent catastrophe. And it's a bummer next couple of days as she feels like maybe her getting reunited with her partner at the end of the main story may have just been too good to be true.
Please tell me more. Wait! Cresselia!
Things come to a head one morning when Azurill falls victim to a nightmare he can't wake up from. Our team is instructed to go and seek help from Drowsy. Yes, that Drowsy, the one who kidnapped Azurill at the beginning of the game. He served some hard time and has since earned parole for good behavior.
Drowsy has a chance to save Azurill now.
He's meditating at the top of a dungeon called Mount Travail, and I guess staring off at the horizon is just a psychic type thing. After bringing him in, he agrees to help us infiltrate the nightmare to try and make up for what he did to Azurill in the past. The nightmare is actually a dungeon, and our duo has to work their way down to the bottom floor, fighting some incredibly tough ghost Pokemon along the way.
Whoa! We're in the nightmare!
At the depths of the nightmare, they find none other than Cresselia, who tells us about how our existence has distorted space-time, and that's why we can't evolve. It's here she learns that Shinx has also been having the same dreams she has, and things are starting to get suspicious.
Wait, Noiki had the dreams too! They weren't just ordinary dreams after all!
Cresselia drops the bombshell that in order to fix all this, we basically have to die.
Prepare to disappear! Oh god, it must be done! The world must be saved! Oh no, Cresselia's a little bit zealous.
Before she's able to harm the team, Drowsy comes in and saves everyone. Crazy to think that the legendary Moonduck was scared of him, but I guess he's on a watch list, so who knows. Either way, we leave the nightmare, but choose to keep what we learned to ourselves.
A way of stopping the distortion of space. Oh, Nope, I don't remember Cresselia saying a thing about that.
Shink starts having doubts because of what Cresselia shared with us, and he considers that the team should do what's best for the greater good. That's all well and good, but my girlfriend rightfully points out they don't even know if their sacrifice will fix things or not. The two seek the wisdom of Lapras, but all they learn is that Palkia rules over space and is located somewhere called Spatial Rift.
Hate to disappoint, but I can't travel to the Spatial Rift. I don't even know where it is.
They call it a night and head to bed, but are rudely interrupted by none other than Palkia himself, who sort of just appears in their living room and then carries them away to Spatial Rift.
What's going on?
Palkia is upset with them for their role in the space distortions and thinks the only way to make things go back to the way they were is to get rid of them. After a battle with Palkia and a snack on a couple of Reviver Seeds, they finally get a chance to talk.
Maybe Palkia will listen now.
So as it turns out, Cresselia has been showing up in Palkia's dreams too, and she's convinced him to attack us.
In my dreams, Cresselia, you were insisted they were bad.
Things look bad for our duo, but they're saved by Cresselia. Or should I say, the real Cresselia.
Yo! I was just in time!
As it turns out, the Cresselia everyone's been seeing in their dreams hasn't been Cresselia at all. It's been Darkrai in disguise.
I was about to dispose of those meddlers once and for all.
He's been stringing my girlfriend and company along to think that they're the reason the world is at risk of plunging into darkness, when in reality, it's his doing.
You are more than welcome to try and stop me. Come to me in the dark crater. You're not getting away, Darkrai.
After a tip-off from a much friendlier Snorunt, we learn that Celebi and the Sableye are just up ahead. Grovyle and Dusknoir battle their way through the Icicle Forest to try and save her. They discover that she's being held captive by the same Spiritomb who captured Grovyle in the main game, but before he can strike, Grovyle's ensnared in a trap.
No! Grovyle! Oh, ow!
Dusknoir steps forward and dusts his hands off before apologizing for hitting him with the old Reaper Cloak and Dagger.
What? Dusknoir? What?
This entire sequence of events has been a sting operation. Dusknoir has secretly been luring Grovyle to this forest the entire time, as it's the linchpin of his most recent scheme.
Everything has gone according to my plan. What?
So as it turns out, Grovyle wasn't the one to wake up first. Dusknoir did.
Oh, Dusknoir regained consciousness first. Oh.
And that's how we set all of this in motion.
My plan, elegant and beautiful.
The electricity from the icicles is essentially a soul killer, and he intends to destroy Grovyle's spirit and then inhabit his body to pose as him in the past.
Icicle Forest is a special place. If you're hit by the electrical discharge of these ice pillars, your spirit will be melted away. No, Grovyle!
He'll use Grovyle's image to fool Tarny and Noiki. Honestly, kind of metal. I wasn't expecting face stealers in Pokemon.
After your spirit has been melted away, I will use your body. And in your place, I will return to the past. What?
However, this idea of killing the spirit reignites the conversation of actions outliving one's corporeal self from earlier, and Dusknoir begins to question his own actions.
What it truly means to live. My meaning.
In a flash of white before Grovyle's lost forever, Dusknoir leaps out and protects him once again.
No, Grovyle! What happened? Yo, Dusknoir!
Not all is well though, as someone's been watching them during this exchange of events.
Master Dialga. Oh, Dialga's pissed.
Primal Dialga lashes out and begins to roar, time them all.
Oh god. Oh my god!
The Pokemon work together to fight back, but it's a hopeless battle. All seems lost until a sudden flash and a gust of wind blows.
Ah! Wah! What?
Time has begun to move again.
No, Darkrai got away!
After apologizing to her team for spatial rending them 3 times, Palkia drops everyone back off in Treasure Town.
As the being that governs space itself, he is taking his pride on success.
We're finally getting to the bottom of this mystery. Darkrai was the one responsible for initiating the collapse of Temporal Tower, and when that failed, he blamed my girlfriend's exploration team. So now he's planning to do away with them first as to not let them get in his way again.
Out of fear of Tarny and Noiki. Ah.
When it comes to light how our protagonists were being manipulated, it's really touching that the entire town comes together to reassure them that they are wanted and that people do care about them. Their lives are important because of the positive impact they've had on everyone around them. It's easy to forget that sometimes, and everyone needs a reminder now and then.
It makes us happy that you're with us, Tarny and Noiki. That's reason enough to keep existing.
The town agrees that Darkrai's bad news and that we need to put an end to his shenanigans for good. Cresselia agrees to team up with our duo, and everyone in town cheers for my girlfriend's victory at the Dark Crater.
Yo! It doesn't matter if it's a trap or not. If we don't stop Darkrai, he'll smother the whole world in darkness.
The crater is in the running for one of the hardest dungeons in the entire game, and it's filled to the brim with fighting types, which are super effective against a Skitty. Her Sting strategy also has lost its teeth thanks to several having abilities and IQ skills that make them immune to sleep. The icing on the cake is that she's got to drag this moon duck to the pit with her, and Cresselia loves eating her poor Reviver seeds.
Oh. Use your Psychic!
It's a bit of a grueling descent, but they need to keep moving until they make it to the crater's pit, where they can finally confront Darkrai.
Why are there so many fighting guys? And why isn't my Psychic type doing anything to them?
In the unfrozen future, Grovyle and the gang try to make sense of what's going on. Tarny and Noiki were clearly successful in saving the future, but not all is well just yet. Primal Dialga intends to go back in time himself to undo what they did and keep the planetary stasis.
Now that the world's finally started to move, I don't know what happened. We need to stop them quickly.
With what little time they have left, the group decides they'll ascend to the peak of Ice Mountain and fight off Primal Dialga to protect our heroes of the past. Grovyle, Dusknoir, and Celebi work together to navigate this final dungeon and make it to Dialga. The three attack the Time Tyrant in unison in the hopes that their actions will leave a world full of promise to the ones they leave behind.
History is being distorted! History distorted? The end is coming. It's getting close. What? Let's go. We're gonna fight together. Okay. Go work crew. Yeah, we did it. We took out Dialga!
With Dialga held off long enough, he evaporates in bubbles similar to the way my girlfriend did at the end of the main story. The three collapse and begin to fade away themselves.
No, Dusknoir! Oh my god!
Dusknoir is the first to go, finally making peace with his disappearance and satisfied with the actions he'll leave behind for those who will inherit the future.
My life. Did it shine? Dusknoir, it sparkled so much. I lived. Bye, Dusknoir.
With some help from Grovyle, Celebi finally gets to watch the sun rise in their world before disappearing from existence.
Is this the morning sun? I had no idea. A world in which the sun rises is so beautiful. The sun. I had no idea that it could be this warm.
She's finally made it to the pit, and it's here where Darkrai lays the final piece of the puzzle. He caught wind of Grovyle and my girlfriend coming to the past to save the future and attack them during their time travel. In doing so, he caused her to turn into a Pokemon and lose her memory, explaining how she became an amnesiac Skitty in the first place.
That very accident was caused by none other than myself. He's the reason I got separated from Grovyle!
He tries some shady tactics by creating the illusion that Shinx has taken his side. Luckily, the pink cat is a clever one though, and she wakes up from the nightmare to face him head on.
This is all a nightmare! Good work, Tarny. Yeah! We took out Darkrai!
With his defeat imminent, Darkrai attempts to escape through a dimensional hole to either the past or the future. Just as he's about to fly the coop though, Palkia shows up hungry for revenge and hits him square in the chest with a spatial rend as he enters the wormhole.
Whoa! There's no escape!
An ironic twist of fate, Darkrai suffers the same fate as my girlfriend, lost somewhere in time with no memory of who or what he was. At least no one will have to worry about him meddling in the future or past ever again.
Whoa. And he will wander lost through the world? That's like a fate worse than death.
Back in Treasure Town, the Pokemon celebrate my girlfriend's exploration team saving the world once again. Azuro wakes up from the nightmare and things can finally go back to how they were. The space distortions are finally done with and peace returns to the region.
But when everyone surrounded us and was glad to see us back, that's when I finally thought, it's wonderful to be alive. Smiles go for miles.
From here, she's free to complete missions and explore to her heart's content. The final chapter of her story has finally come to a close.
We may have gone back to the Luminous Spring since then, though we still can't evolve there. However, we can exist here. Yay! We can live here. It's okay, I didn't want to evolve anyway.
It seems like everyone got a happy ending. And when I say everyone, I really do mean everyone.
Whoa, wait, they're here. They're here.
Grovyle wakes up to find he and his friends haven't disappeared after all. Or at the very least, if they did, they're back. Dialga, no longer on a primal rampage, steps forward and announces that it wasn't him that brought them back, but a higher power.
This was surely that power work, I believe.
Dialga uses his power over time to repair their damaged timeline and give their world a fighting chance. No one knows what the future holds, but all that matters is that they get a tomorrow.
Look at him go! Whoa! Oh my god, it's so cool looking! Wow!
Grovyle looks out on the horizon and calls out to his friends in the past, reassuring them, we're alive.
The wind! The light! If you can carry my message, please send it to Tarny and Noiki. We are still alive. Oh, gorgeous. Hello, girlfriend here. Boy is currently laid out from editing this video nonstop the past 2 days, so I'm stepping in to help wrap things up. Thank you all so much to everyone who wanted to make sure I didn't miss out on all the special moments this game was still hiding. I also want to thank our patrons and channel members who make videos like these possible. A huge shout out goes to our 6-wheelers: Daniel Rogers, Gizmo, Isaac Vogan, David Webb, Mace, Albino the Infernape, Greya Sleepy, Taco Supreme, Parav Skittles, Envy, Shaneboy1888, and Cerberus. Since this was a bit of a bonus video for the month, there will still be a video next Sunday, so mark your calendars and we'll see you there. In the meantime, we're streaming over on Twitch, so come say hi. We'd love to see you. We're hosting a community event to celebrate 300,000 subscribers, so if you want to participate, that's the place to be. I think I hear the cat meowing, and I better give him food before he wakes Boy up. Until next time, always remember, smiles go for miles. Yoom-tah!